Have you ever been in a race with other boats of the same design and found that the boat you're on just doesn't seem to have that winning edge? Even with the same weight, tuning, conditions, and skill set, the boat you're on just doesn't seem to perform like the others. Well, I certainly have. And when it happens, it's hard not to get the inclination to take it personally. But what if I told you the key to winning in a one-design sailboat race today is sometimes not anything we can easily see, but a secret that's been hiding in plain sight for over 100 years. Welcome back to Sailing Team Tally-Ho, where my crew asks me questions I just can't answer, which is often, by the way, and what else? I do some research and find out the answer. And what did I find in this case? A great historic example. So stick around. You'll get the scoop on that, and I think it will affect how you approach your competitive sailing yourself. In this video, we'll be pulling back the curtain on a century-old secret and revealing how these secrets can still be the key to victory. But first, if you like this content, please click on the subscribe and like. It helps me to keep these going. Thanks! Oh, and by the way, this video is made the old-fashioned way. No AI. Neither voice nor video. Our story goes all the way back to a boat that was designed when the horse and buggy still ruled the road. And even commercial, square-rigged sailing ships were still common on the high seas. But the world was changing fast. And on the water, one boat was capturing everyone's imagination: the Star. Designed in 1910, the Star was sleek, fast, and didn't cost a fortune. It quickly became one of the most competitive one-design classes in the world. Now, the whole point of a one-design class like the Star is simple. Every boat is supposed to be identical. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Victory should come from the crew's skill, not from the fatter wallet or sneaky design tweak. But by the early 1920s in the Star class, there was a problem. At major regattas, sailors started noticing that not all stars were created equal. Some boats just seemed faster. I recall some of this myself, having sailed the Star as a youngster with my dad. Here we are on a Legacy Star sailboat in Tokyo Bay in 1964. Yeah, that dates me. Maybe somebody especially knowledgeable in the class can tell me which version this boat came from. But even when I was so young at that age, I still understood that there were just some lucky boats. They always pointed a little higher into the wind, slipped through the water with a little less effort, and always seemed to end up at the front of the pack. The whispers started. Had someone found a loophole? The controversy really started heating up around the national championships in the early 1920s. It became obvious that different builders, all working from the same plans, were interpreting them in slightly different ways. Even the length of the boat was reported to differ by about as much as 4 inches, and that's about 10 centimeters. And it was said that someone could tell the difference between boats by just stepping aboard. But we have to remember that these boats were built by hand, carved from wood, and shapes were steamed to perfection, where the builder's eye and skill meant everything. A slight curve here, a flatter section there. These tiny variations, measured in fractions of an inch, were making a real difference in speed. The promise of a level playing field, which is the whole foundation of one design, was in serious philosophical trouble. The class rules had tolerances, small tolerances for building errors, but it seemed as if some builders realized these tolerances weren't just a margin for error, they were a recipe for speed. The rules said you couldn't intentionally take advantage of them, but hey, human nature and the desire to win are powerful forces. Especially when the Star became an Olympic class in 1932. There was not only personal prestige involved, but national pride. An unfair advantage was creeping in, and something had to be done before the class tore itself apart. They had to find a way to guarantee that a star was a star, no matter who built it. Facing a crisis, the Star class leadership knew they had to act, and quick. In 1926, they made a game-changing decision. From now on, every new star would have to be measured and officially certified to race. And this was a new concept back then. But how do you measure the gentle curves of a hull with just a tape measure and a rule book? You can't. They needed a better system. So the leadership started a secret project. They measured a ton of boats from different builders to figure out exactly where the variations were and how they affected speed. This was the birth of the famous Star class top secret measurements. And they just weren't numbers on a page. They were a set of physical templates, carefully shaped wooden or metal forms that a boat's hull had to fit perfectly. Think of it like slicing a loaf of bread. Each slice has a specific shape. The templates made sure every slice of a star's hull was identical. These slice locations on the boat were called stations. And at first, these stations and templates were kept under lock and key, a closely guarded secret. The goal wasn't to give anyone an edge, but to do an exact opposite, to stop builders from gaming the system. By controlling the information, it was thought, they could standardize the boats and save the one design ideal. It was a brilliantly simple solution. Measurers would simply place the templates on the hull, and if there was a gap, or if the hull was too full, it failed. The era of the fast and slow builders was supposed to be over. But in solving one problem, the class accidentally codified the very secrets of a fast hull shape. They had defined what made a star fast, and in doing so, they created a new obsession for sailors: how to find the perfect shape within those secret limits. So what is the century-old secret? What are those templates actually controlling? It wasn't so much about the boat's length or width. It was all about the subtle, three-dimensional curve of the boat's bottom. The builders in the 20s had stumbled onto the core principles of hydrodynamics. Here's the secret. It's all a trade-off between the wetted surface area and hull form stability. The measurements revealed two competing theories for the fastest hull shape, and both were legal. First, you have the rounder bottom, a hull cross-section that's deep and full. This shape has less surface area touching the water, especially when the boat is upright. In superlight winds, when drag is your biggest enemy, a rounder bottom is a rocket ship, slipping through the water with the tiniest puff of wind. The competing theory was the flatter bottom. Here, the arc of the hull is much shallower. This does a couple of things. A flatter hull gives you more power and stability. And more importantly, it helps the boat point higher into the wind and go faster in a stronger breeze. Over time, as the sails got better, most top boats started favoring this flatter, maximum radii shape. And that's the essence of the secret. The perfect hull shape changes with the conditions. A boat built for light wind might feel sluggish in a blow, and a heavy air machine might feel sticky and slow on a calm day. The top secret measurements didn't create one perfect boat. They defined the narrow window of legal shapes that sailors could choose from. A university student and star sailor named Phil Spaulding even wrote his master's thesis in the 1930s on this very topic. So the secret was out, at least in some circles. The best sailors realized that the game wasn't just about sailing better, it was about having the right hull on the right day. The hull itself became another tool in the toolbox, a variable to be balanced against sail trim and tactics. The secret wasn't a single answer, but a complex equation of curves, conditions, and compromises. Okay, so you're probably thinking, that's a neat history lesson, but we live in an age of laser measurements and computer-controlled precision. Does a 100-year-old secret like this even matter? The answer is a resounding yes. The ghost of those old templates still haunts every One Design racing class today. While modern stars are made of molded fiberglass, the principle of maximizing performance within tiny tolerances, especially between builders, is still a critical key to winning. And today, the obsession is more intense than ever. Even if the star class is no longer in the Olympics, believe me, literally the best sailors in the world still pursue its top honors. And the star class sailboat doesn't even have a spinnaker. But perhaps this is in part because the star design has been refined by the fire of stiff competition. And these top teams don't just hope their boat is fast, they verify it. Before a regatta, crews will spend hours meticulously checking every inch of their boat against the rules. I like to think of them like a talented concert pianist. They know their instrument, and they demand the top performance from it. The tuning, the key actions, the pressure of the pedals must be exacting. They not only play their piano, they master everything about it. And like the concert pianist, a One Design team's obsession extends to the whole rig. Sailors check their spreader angles, mast rake, and shroud tensions down to the millimeter. They have marks on their sheets and controls to make their tuning perfectly repeatable, which means that the spirit of that old secret is alive and well. Sailors know that even if the hull only accounts for a tiny percentage of a boat's speed compared to the sails and tuning, it's the foundation for everything else. You see the same thing in classes like the Optimus dinghy, sailed by kids. It's the direct descendant of the Star Sailor's discovery. Real speed comes from a perfect interaction between the rig, the sails, and shape of the hull. I think the ultimate lesson here is that in top-level One Design racing, nothing is left to chance. The best teams know that victory is found in the margins. They start with a hull they know is as perfect as possible, right to the knife's edge of the rules, and build from there with relentless tuning. No detail is too small. The tools have changed from wooden templates to lasers, but the goal is the same, to unlock every bit of speed hidden within the strict lines of a One Design hull. The secret from the 1920s just wasn't about making boats the same. It was about understanding the tiny differences that make a champion. And in my opinion, nowhere is that story more fascinating and compelling than with the Star class. So what are some of the secrets you've discovered in your own One Design sailing? Drop your wisdom in the comments below. Let's share the knowledge. And what's up next from Sailing Team Tally-Ho? Lots of good new footage, and a story about the other part of the equation, the software that makes all of this move in the right direction. So stay tuned. Clicking the subscribe and notify gets you that. See you then.